It's the year 2002. Angsty teens everywhere are listening to The Eminem Show. The most convoluted lore in a video game series has just begun, and the $4 million stolen in hit Spielberg movie Catch Me If You Can, which is set in the early 60s, would be worth about $40 million in today dollars. I should have bought a house during my childhood. Catch Me If You Can is essentially a movie about what happens if you teach your child all the skills to become a con man. And, unsurprisingly, the answer is they become a con man. Introducing Frank Abagnale Sr., played by Christopher Walken, a man of many talents. He commits tax fraud, bribes people, fakes wealth. Because, owning a stationery store doesn't exactly lead to one living the high life. But I guess Frank Sr. didn't realize that by modeling these traits around his son, Frank Abagnale Jr., played by a young Leonardo DiCaprio, Frank Sr. was building a world's greatest con man. And it all started with two mice dropped into a bucket of cream. Actually, I'll let Frank tell you himself.
The first mouse quickly gave up and drowned. The second mouse wouldn't quit. He struggled so hard that eventually he churned that cream into butter and crawled out.
We hear this story near the beginning of the movie, and it sets up the driving philosophy of these two men. You can't give up, no matter what, because if you give up, you end up like the first mouse, dead. Be the second mouse, turn that cream into butter. Granted, I don't know what a mouse can really do with butter. I'm sure there's some 45-minute video essay to be written about the connection of mice and butter, but that's someone else's wheelhouse. You just have to turn that cream into butter. You have to live. Now Frank Jr. is learning that no matter what, keep kicking in life. It's what dear old dad would want. So Frank Jr. ran with it. Literally, he ran away from home at age 16. And he kicked that cream for 5 years to the tune of $4 million as he ran from the FBI. But how did Frank Jr. do it? How did he evade Carl Hanratty, who was played by Tom Hanks, for all that time? Well, it's for the same reason the Yankees win. And of course, you would say it's
because they have Mickey Mantle?
The Yankees win because they have Mickey Mantle.
But you'd be wrong.
It's because the other teams can't stop staring at those damn pinstripes.
Now, this lesson comes to Frank Jr. when his father is going to a bank he has no relationship with to try and get a loan. Frank Sr. has his son dress up as a driver for him to give him an air of importance as they pull up to the bank. But no amount of pinstripes and con can help when a bank finds out you owe Uncle Sam. So while it didn't work out then, Frank Jr. still learns how important looking the part is. Later, he needs to look important so he can get his fake check cashed. So he dresses like a pilot. Apparently in the 60s, they were practically rock stars, or so the movie would lead you to believe. This leads to the tellers at the banks looking at his uniform, not the fake check they've just been handed. And Frank Jr. pulls off the same trick when Hanratty almost catches him. Frank Jr. gets Hanratty to look where he wants him to, so the agent doesn't check the very not real badge in his hand. But of course, this leads us to, how does one even get a fake check? Well, probably the only legitimate thing in Frank Sr.'s life. Maybe. We'll ignore the tax fraud. The stationery store, where Frank Jr. learned how to create documents, which allowed him to be anything but stationary. The two lessons his dad taught him would help him do a lot in life. He could achieve great things. I mean, he passed the Louisiana bar with 2 weeks of study time. But the ability to forge a document and then be able to lie about it, now that's world's greatest con man material right there. Frank Jr. was able to start with a birth certificate and some checks, eventually moving all the way to a fake medical degree from Harvard. Truly a different time when people would just take you at your word, a good handshake, and a fancy piece of paper. But from all this, I have some advice for Frank Sr. myself. Be careful what you teach your kids. They may well use the lessons and skills you teach them to commit crime. Two mice, one falls into a bucket of cream, paddling until it turns to butter, only to climb out and run from the FBI for 5 years. The second mouse had a dad who taught him to not fall into buckets of cream. He's probably an actual pilot now. Frank Sr. might have been better off being the second dad. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who had never seen Catch Me If You Can. But now I have.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Go fuck yourselves.